No, that would be very inappropriate and not acceptable in any stretch of the imagination.
Of course not. But I'm just saying, like, this is an icebreaker to get us laughing.
Yeah. Stand by. The phone's ringing.
You're being summoned.
Apparently I am.
Get nerdy with me. Talk nerdy to me. Get nerdy with me. All I really need for you to do is just please.
I get stoked.
Talk to me. Talk nerdy to me.
Okay, we're back with take 2.
Hey, who predicted that? Come on, you know,
It's the gremlins in the system. All right, so let me try this again. Second verse, same as the first. My name is Aaron, and my co-host at this time is
James.
And welcome to the great experiment, as James T. Kirk called the USS Excelsior. This isn't a starship, and I'm not wearing a uniform. The reference still stands.
You see, that was much smoother than the first one. Like, you had time to think that through.
We needed our rehearsal. That's not how podcasts are supposed to work.
Now, I have a question though. What color of shirt would you be wearing?
Definitely not red.
I have this really bad feeling I'd probably be a red shirt somewhere. They would have video of me just getting mauled by some sort of lizard man.
This could be your like role on the show. You could be the red shirt that almost dies but doesn't. Like every single episode something terrible happens to you, like you get mauled by a monster, and then you're in the ice, then you're in the sick bay, and then the next episode you're back out again, and you're always getting attacked by some creature from the whatever episode it is.
That sounds about right. Or at least for my experience so far in life. I'm just saying, it's like
Murphy's Law has been visited upon you multiple times in your life.
Yeah, I'd be looking up from like I can see Bones is like, he's dead, Jim. Like, not yet.
I'm still alive.
No, I'm still here.
I'm the red shirt that wouldn't die.
Run the diagnostic again.
It sounds like a delightful short story or some kind of like I don't know what the word is for it. Not montage. What do you call those mini episodes that happen in between shows?
Ugh, you got me.
Words are hard today.
It's been a rough day. Let's put it that way.
Hold on, we'll find it. Let me do a Google.
Yeah, Google it.
Google what are.
Do I need to bring my own laptop so I can Google stuff too?
You know, it might be mini episodes. Mini spiders episodes.
Mini spiders.
Mini episodes called mini series. That doesn't make sense.
No, because that mini series is more like a small little like. This is a.
What are mini scenes called? Let's try that. Because there is a particular word for it. Oh, I quit.
That's all right.
Diorama? No.
We're allowed to quit on you, folks, and make you Google it yourselves.
I don't know what the word is. I'm sure people are listening right now are like, this is the word, and I can't believe you can't think of it. I can't believe you didn't Google it.
They're going to attack us on social media somewhere.
We're going to get burned at the stake like the witches of old. Yeah. But we're not witches, so I don't know how that works.
And luckily, this is episode 1, so it's like we're kind of safe.
Yeah. There's this honeymoon thing, right? You know, like it's our first episode ever, and people are just going to treat us like gentle lambs of the glens.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, our wool has not been dirtied yet. Be nice, people.
That's right. You heard it first from us on the podcast here on this episode. We didn't introduce our actual name of this podcast. We're calling ourselves Nerds by Screenlight. Is the title of this podcast. It is focused entirely on nerddom and geekdom.
So we're gonna run the gamut here, everybody.
Yeah.
So if we jump around between topics and things,
buckle up.
It's what we do.
Hold on for dear life, and don't have your hands or feet outside the vehicle at any time, because you might lose one and end up on an episode of Robocop. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And just hopefully it's not like Robocop number 1 with the acid. Come on.
Yeah, don't do that. That's not good for good for your skin.
Yeah.
Oil of Olay it is not.
Yeah, that's not going to get that out.
It's gonna take some other surgery. I'm sure there's a show in our grand pantheon of nerd and geekdom that would definitely be.
I think we need to cover RoboCop at some point.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, it's a little brutal, but I mean, there's some of those effects and things they did in that movie.
Well, and there was a RoboCop television show. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
There was a RoboCop television show.
What?
Yeah, believe it or not, that somehow made one. It wasn't very good.
Oh yeah, no.
it was a bit concerning.
Because I mean, we're gonna have to get in. Like that remake was also missing a lot of points too.
Well, we're gonna put a pin in remakes. I'm gonna make notes here, so I'm gonna say RoboCop And so there was RoboCop 1, 2, and 3, and then there was a television series, and then we're also looking at
I mean, do you remember how hyped you were as a kid when you found out that RoboCop could suddenly jump?
I don't remember that.
You don't? I remember in my circle of friends.
Okay.
When RoboCop 2 came out.
Oh.
And he could suddenly like jump and hop.
Oh.
It was kind of like mind blowing.
Their paradigm shifted.
Yes.
The world was shook.
And then I think what was his 3 when he got the backpack that let him fly.
He became the Rocketeer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, come on. Like,
all right.
That was just crazy to us.
So, taking notes. RoboCop 1 is just lovely. RoboCop 2 is when he learned how to jump. RoboCop 3 is Backpack Jack.
Yes.
Backpack guy. Okay. And then the TV series, well, we haven't quite figured out what that is. And then the remakes are just okay.
Okay. So those of you that don't normally converse with nerds about nerdy stuff, this is a slice of that pie.
Yeah. It tends to kind of wander around the good ship, whatever that is, a lot.
I mean, it is awkward, yummy, and delicious.
Awkward is
but
awesome.
At times, you're going to get some apple, and then it'll be like a strawberry that's just like, what is this doing in this pie?
And then you might get some whipped cream, and you're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
You just accept it, and you move on. You accept life. Okay, so having talked about all of that, I'm literally going to be taking notes on stuff that we talk about that we can't talk about in a full episode because there's going to be probably a lot.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're doing it because I'm terrible at this.
It's a real vote of confidence, James. I'm glad I chose you as a co-host.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
What? There was a show I was watching. There's a show called Mrs. Brown's Boys. It's on the BBC.
Okay.
And it's fantastic. But there's like bloopers where like the main character in the bloopers, they're obviously being funny about it because they don't really say it, but they're like, oh, we'll just get somebody else.
Yeah.
So James, we'll just get somebody else.
Yeah.
We'll recast for episode 2.
Like maybe like
you're going to be the Eric Stoltz of Back to the Future.
Hey, if this takes off and people really like it, maybe we can get a lackey. Here, you take notes.
Yeah. Everyone wants a good lackey or two.
Yeah.
Did you know that Eric Stoltz was originally supposed to be Marty McFly?
Yes, I did.
I've
gone as far as I've seen some of that test footage,
and it's terrible.
And it's so bad.
Like he's playing it almost like as poke-apocalyptic. The
Yeah,
Pope is involved now.
Or Pokemon. Where are you going with that?
The Pope and the Pokemons. Oh, that's a movie right there that needs to be made. All right, I'm putting Eric Stoltz on.
It could
the
be
burner.
Back to the Gym, the Pokemon.
Back to the Vatican, the Pokemon story.
Yeah.
Okay, Eric Stoltz, Back to the Future. Putting that on the burner.
Yeah, we need to get in that one too because that is a deep story.
Yeah, it is.
And people don't realize how deep that goes.
No. Well, and I watch a show called Madam Secretary, and I've reached the last episode, but Eric Stoltz actually plays the secretary's brother, and it's very interesting to see him act that. He's got this mechanism, this way of acting that is kind of just this depressed, dark, sad kind of character, and I think that's just what he plays and what he plays to. But
yeah, he just because I've seen him in other things.
Yeah,
and he always takes it just way too seriously.
Right.
Like that's always the feeling I get from him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, relax, buddy.
Yeah.
You're at the beach.
It's gonna be okay. You can
It's
smile.
gonna be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just put on some sunscreen. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
No, the sun is taking away my life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like here's
all right, Mr. Stoltz.
Yeah.
Breathe. How this podcast came to be. Wow.
Do you really have to tell them this?
So we met at Zazie Cafe where I work. It's a small little cafe here in Fort Morgan, Colorado. And we kind of discovered that we had similar interests. And I think it was even a conversation where I mentioned, hey, I'm looking to record a podcast or two. And you, James, had mentioned that you had been listening to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, I listened to them. But then I know we didn't finish that conversation that day. I know we came back to it later after we were talking about some Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
And apparently we did upset some lady the way we were talking about Star Wars. I was warned by one of the other workers, like, hey, you guys,
we've upset the
we
upset the Star Wars
somebody,
lady,
and she up and took off. I was like, well, we weren't using dirty language or anything. We were just taking apart Star Wars.
People take Star Wars very seriously in this world, and I'm not a Star Wars guy. I'm a Star Trek guy by trade, and so I may have been careless with my Star Wars
critique.
Or casting aspersions upon the industry.
Well, I mean, I'm the Star Wars guy here,
right?
But it's like I think we were both agreeing and taking apart, these newer movies.
Yeah.
Like not there's some good stuff in there. We'll get into it. I don't want to say too much because then we're going to go down a hole that we're not coming back from.
We'll never get done.
Yeah, I apologize to everybody. But so we're putting a cap in that.
Yeah, putting a pin in it, holding it on to
but
later.
Yeah, I remember it was after the Star Wars conversation because I'm like a gargoyle that sits at Zazie and reads books and drinks a ton more coffee than I should.
I work at Zazie for clarification's sake, so I'm on the other side of the counter.
Yeah, but we sit there and we just,
It's
to the fat.
It's a good little community
it's
time.
good.
And you get to laugh at us when we sometimes make fun of each other, and I get beat up, like verbally from Lucy.
Verbally, but sometimes there's things that go flying at you.
They're soft things, mind you.
There's soft things.
There's no like knives being thrown.
Yeah.
This is just like I get a napkin thrown at my face sometimes.
A piece of bread.
Yeah.
A piece of cookie.
It's fine. And then I pick it up from the floor and eat it.
Yeah. 5-second rule, folks.
Yeah. No.
5 seconds.
If our local health department is listening, they're going to lose their minds. No, if it hits the floor, it stays on the floor. We follow proper cross contamination procedures.
And we love Zazie Cafe.
Zazie is a good place.
They're just good people.
There is a need in this community, especially with kind of the nerd and the geek kind of world and people that we discussed this, and even the new owners of Zazie. We talked about it, and even people that I've talked to who are nerds and geeks in the community, there seems to be a need for folks who think, see, and experience and engage the world through those geek and nerd lenses. There's not the thing about small towns. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're from outside of Morgan County or Fort Morgan, Colorado, and you live in the Denver metro with Thornton or Westminster, you know that there is a lot of things to be done in a town like that. There's not a lot to be done in small towns like Fort Morgan and Sterling and other places because there's not a lot of places and there's not a lot of venues for which to have. We have a roller rink, we have a bowling alley, we have a movie theater, we have a Walmart, we used to have a JCPenney many years ago. So like there's certain things we have, but we don't have a place where, hey, there's a coffee shop that's open till 9 where geeks can gather and play games.
Or the big one, a comic book store.
Yeah.
Or a local gaming store.
Yeah.
Those things don't really exist out here.
No.
So it makes it very difficult for those that are interested in, say, our geeky, nerdy topics and games and things like that to find that, to enjoy that together.
Well, and even when I was working, I taught 6th grade at the middle school for 2 years. I founded a creative club, which was like, hey, you want to come and create stuff? You want to create stories? You want to create video, whatever. And I consistently had a good number of kids show up weekly to hang out and learn and to engage and to just have a space to do that.
Yep.
And when I came here to Lincoln High School here in Fort Morgan, it's our alternative education campus for kids who need just a little bit extra help or smaller classrooms. I founded a creative club here, and we've got it Create at Morgan, which is hosting a lot of podcasts, including this one. And the idea behind it is that we want to have students in the community to have a place to be nerdy, to be geeky. On Tuesdays and Fridays, for our school kids, we have creative clubs. So we have an Axis and Allies game that's being played in my room, and every week they're here playing that Axis and Allies, and they're keeping track, and they're breaking out the rule books, and they're having a heck of a time doing it.
Yeah, that actually reminds me. I need to go check the board because I was watching some of them and their moves. I want to see how far they progressed.
Right. And it's kind of cool. We've talked about actually like either streaming it or video or recording it in pieces so that we can then like say, hey, here's the big stuff that happened last week, and either upload it to YouTube or share it with people. But to that end, I'm guaranteeing you, if you're in Morgan County or in Fort Morgan, if you're a nerd, if you're a geek, there's not a lot of places. I mean, there is like the Platte Valley Players. They do the theater. They do music. There's a lot of opportunities, but it's not like there's a place where people can just come and hang out and be nerdy during the week or during the weekend. And so part of our goal with this podcast is to start that process and to say, hey, are you a nerd or a geek in Morgan County? Or, hey, are you a nerd or a geek across the world? Yeah. But we're trying to reach out to our community and say, hey, are you interested in being a part of this? And if you are, let's get some names, let's get some stuff, and let's make this happen. And so me and James have started this because we want to see if there are fellow nerds out there who would be interested in engaging and discussing and being a part of this kind of a podcast. And
or just listening into us and making fun of us on social media. I mean, that happens.
Yeah, well, let's not encourage the haters that much.
Well, I'm just saying it's gonna happen. I mean, someone's gonna pick on my pronunciation of some Japanese words when we eventually get there. So I mean,
Okay, we'll put a note in place about that for future episodes. Don't make fun of James and his pronunciations of Japanese words.
Someone's having trouble with English here, folks.
I am the language arts teacher. It's going to be a challenge.
And I'll have you guys know, it's like we are like brand new friends. So this is kind of like we're just getting along here and riffing off each other. And it feels like we've known each other a lot longer than we have.
Well, and I want to interject on that because I think there is this, and it probably happens with athletes or with other people who have similar interests and things like that, where you connect on something on I don't want to say a deeper level, but there is that connection where it's like this is my story, like my story of being a nerd, being picked on, being not having really a place to be, like kind of being an outsider. A lot of those feelings and emotions and experiences, they do connect on a deeper level, and they allow you to go. It feels, and you end up saying, I feel like I've known you for longer.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's because of those experiences, because I've been where you've been. You've been where I've been. We've been in those situations where we're the odd ones out.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I don't want our listeners to think of to pity us, but we're grown men. Like we're grown people. There are people out there who are not yet in our age bracket.
Yeah, there's a lot of you out there, the younger guys or younger ladies, all of you, in the younger crowd. Let's put it that way. That maybe you feel marginalized, maybe you feel bullied, maybe you feel put aside. It's like, no, but I want you to let you know, you're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone.
We're all out here. Like I just ran across this guy at a cafe, and now look at us. We're making a podcast together.
So I think that's part of it is that if you can find, this is going to sound a little corny, but if you can find your people, like that's a huge thing. And for me in middle school and even for high school, so in middle school, obviously I was bullied because I was a nerd and whatever, and I was
been there.
Yeah, it's a thing. But I got to high school, and high school was suddenly so much bigger for me. Like there were actual theater kids in high school. There was kids who liked technical theater and were interested and were excited, and that became for 4 years my home. And I understand what it means to have a home with people who think and believe in the same nerdy things that you do, because that's important, because your soul and your identity is in that, and sometimes you leave that high school and you go somewhere else and you don't find that nerdy consideration or that nerdy community, and you start.
I relate to that.
Yeah.
If I can cut in a little bit, because like in middle school I was marginal, I was pushed aside and bullied because I was the nerd. Yeah. In high school, my family moved around a lot.
Okay.
And nerds don't exactly reach out to new people fast. Yeah. Usually it's
because
the other
they don't trust people.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because they've been messed with before.
So it's like moving around in high school, I didn't have any nerdy connections. I was kind of on my own and at the mercy of the internet at that time. Mm-hmm. Good old sweet dial-up. You probably remember that too.
Oh yeah,
the beeps.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, we should probably put a sound bit of that in there. Yeah.
I had dial-up for the first. I don't think I got actual internet. I'm trying to think about this for a second. I graduated high school in 2001. I think there was internet, quote unquote, in college in the dorms.
Okay.
But I don't think it was very good. I'm trying to remember.
See, my family adopted it kind of earlier than that, or I want to say around 1995-ish or so.
Okay.
But it was brand new to the area. It was super slow, terrible.
Yeah.
But I did find some other nerds out there to kind of chat with, because that's the only people that were on there at the time, really.
Yeah.
And so that kind of kept me going. And then I'm from Texas right now, folks. Mm-hmm. Like when my family moved to Texas and I was entering college, like finishing up high school, entering college, is when I actually found another group of nerds. So, and I still play games with them online. Yeah. We're still in touch. Mike, Bill, I know you're out there. I know you'll eventually listen to this. Not now.
Out in the ether.
And Fish, and of course Jess, you're out there. Julia, of course.
But those friendships are for life.
We keep in touch. We play games every Sunday. We play like an online game with each other. Something
nice,
or even just get on and talk for a while. And that's a good thing. Like we made good connections. Yeah. Well,
and the thing with nerds and geeks is we do find ways to stay connected. We find whatever it takes, we'll do it. That's cool. I like that dynamic, because I found my nerd. Our principal has nicknamed it. We call it you find your nerd herd. You find your people. You find your community. You find your tribe. Whatever you want to call it, you find that, and you never want to let it go, because that is so hard to find. That once you are able to find it and get it and grasp it and feel that, you never want to not feel that again. And so it can be hard. Yeah, if you're moving around a lot. And for me, it was never. as I came out of college, I took 14 years off and went back to college in 2014 and then graduated in 2018 and got the job out here. There was not a lot of nerd or geek organizations even in Metro Denver at that time. So I would connect with some nerds at my church and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there wasn't that it wasn't as central to my life as it could have been. There was a lot of on the online internets and bulletin boards and stuff like that. I was a member of those and I would post on those, but it's always felt transitory. It's never felt like I had a nerd home or a nerd community. Here in Morgan, it feels like I'm getting there because I'm connecting with my creative club. I'm connecting with you. I'm connecting with Julie and Dallas, over there at Zazzy. There are nerd connections in this town, and our goal between myself and James is to firm up those connections and to have hey, we have a once a week thing where we're going to do a thing here, and we've got a location for it, and let's foster that once a month so we can begin to build in that community. Yeah,
just do something like that. I mean, because that's what I was kind of concerned at first when I moved out here and I didn't really have any connections.
Yeah.
A new person from out of town, out of state, in a small town, it is really tough to fall in. Yeah. Especially when you're a nerd and you're kind of super unsure of how do I step in and make friends out here.
Yeah.
And so it's that's why I was I'm super glad it's us and I found this small pod. And it's but I know there's more out there.
Yeah.
And I've even stumbled across a few here and there because I usually wear nerdy clothing. I was I have a Goonies shirt on right now, folks.
Yeah.
So
and people notice that and they might strike up a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the great experiment here is we want to start a conversation here on this podcast and have other nerds connect with us and engage with the community out there, with free acknowledgement that there are probably hundreds of nerd and geek podcasts that are far bigger than we are, wow, that was an English sentence if I remember one.
They're far more polished than we are.
More speaking of polish, they are far much more polished, if I can say that word correctly. But our goal is that there's always a voice, there's always a need for more voices out there, and this is a way for us to kind of have some fun, but also kind of engage in nerddom,
and just have some interesting conversations that sometimes you just don't reach into.
Yeah.
I mean, how often are you going to sit down with somebody let's tear apart Robocop?
Let's determine what the real theme of Robocop the TV series was.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to enlighten me on that one because I had no idea there was one.
It's fascinating. There's also a Robocop game that I owned, the original. It was a CD, and it was low graphics, but you could drive in your Robocop car.
Oh God!
And you could pull people over and solve crimes, and you could get out of your Robocop car and go and shoot criminals and stuff. And
I'm just in there. Imagine being pulled over and this giant silver robot man just stomps out to hand you a ticket.
Get out of the car, dead or alive. You're coming with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever it is, just I want to live.
Yeah, I'd just be throwing my credit card out the window. Just charge me.
Charge me, tin can. Charge me.
Yeah.
But no, the RoboCop world, and because obviously they had the revamp, the relaunch, or whatever movie a couple years back.
Mm-hmm.
I think to take a small rabbit trail off, the reason why the original RoboCop worked is because it wasn't fast moving.
Oh yeah, no.
It was, but the beauty of it was it was future enough that it was cool.
Oh yeah.
But it wasn't perfect, and I think that's the power of great filmmaking is you never want your hero to be so perfect that it's well, he can do anything.
Yeah, that kind of avoid
right.
Yeah, we'll get into the kind of story discussions at some point, but if your hero's too good, it falls apart.
Well, if they can move quickly, if that's then what's their weakness? And RoboCop's weakness was he wasn't a fast mover. He was basically a howitzer on wheels or on feet, basically.
He was a giant metal slug man. You could just easily, me and you could outrun him.
Giant,
maybe not too fast,
slug.
Because look at us, but
that's going in.
We
the
would
show
get
notes.
some blocks on him, I think, Aaron, before we fell over and be like,
right. I've had enough. I can't.
My chest hurts. He's coming.
I'm having an anxiety attack.
Yeah, exactly.
I need an adult.
You think that's probably why he shot people that tried to run away from him? Because it's just I'm not running.
Yeah, I'm too tired.
And I want to know what was in the sludge they fed him.
Nothing good.
I know, right?
All right, moving on.
It freaked me out. Come on, look at that. It looked like baby formula, or really weird oatmeal that you added too much water.
If you had a bad experience with oatmeal, do we need to talk about this for a second?
We'll talk about that during the RoboCop episode.
Okay. We'll bring up the oatmeal situation that scarred James for life. Okay, so talking about the importance of finding your people. Now, a brief emphasis on the word brief. A brief overview of your and our and my nerd and geek interests. This requires me to flip to the page that I took notes on earlier. So I will start with mine. So this, again, listeners, if you're wondering where the heck we're going, we do have a brief outline, and we've outlined ourselves here. You can hear the paper flipping because I'm flipping through the paper. So for me, my nerd geek credentials
Actually, before we go into that,
yes.
I just want to highlight, like, this is just our first episode because we wanted to introduce kind of ourselves and things that we just kind of like might fall into, branch into as we go along. Yeah. We're going to do more themed episodes where we tackle kind of like one topic.
Oh yeah, no, we've got episodes planned out to episode 4, so don't you fret, dear listeners.
And we'll be more focused then, but like with this, we're just introducing ourselves.
We hope we're more focused.
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, we're nerds, sir. We're gonna go all over this.
That's just it's built into our DNA.
We're gonna be sliding around like first-time Mario Kart players.
Or Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah, exactly.
Whichever your generational marker is on the racing game circuit. Okay, so for me, so I'll go through kind of the big dividers. So when we talk about Star Trek versus Star Wars, I primarily land in Star Trek. Mm-hmm. Where do you land in that?
I'm Star Wars.
So that also helps because he has the knowledge. James has the knowledge of all of the books and all of all the shows, all the stuff like that.
I think you will quickly find out, audience, that I'm a massive book nerd.
Yep.
All my friends know me as the guy that's probably read the book, so then they'll come for me with reviews.
Yep.
And
James
it's real
reads
crazy.
A lot.
Yes, I will sit there for about 4 hours and just down gallons of coffee at Zazie, just reading.
We put it in a gallon cup, and he just like spigots it off with a little thingamabob. It's great. It's good times. It's a great show. You can come see it. That actually doesn't happen, but we'll just pretend. So Star Trek is mine, and it goes the gamut from the original series, Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise. Not as familiar with Discovery, Lower Decks, and Picard and Prodigy.
Did you watch them at all?
No, because I don't want to. Here's the thing. I readily accept that I'm going to have to watch Discovery. I'm going to have to watch Lower Decks. I'm going to have to put up with Picard. I'm going to have to watch because if I'm a Star Trek fan, right?
Yeah, you're going to have to
I have to at least taste the buffet and decide whether or not they need to send it back in the kitchen.
I mean, even I've sat down through the Star Wars Christmas special. Come on.
That's a YouTube journey for sure. For those of you who don't know what that is, the Star Wars Holiday Special is a masterpiece of disaster.
Oh yes, it's a giant train wreck.
It's pretty fantastic.
Oh, by the way, happy belated Life Day to everybody.
Oh yeah, that was Life.
Wookiee holiday.
Wookiee holiday.
That's the Star Wars version of Christmas, folks.
Every sci-fi-dom has a holiday. Star Trek has Captain Picard Day, if you can believe it.
Really?
Yeah, it was a Next Generation episode where all the kids, because obviously on the Next Generation on the Enterprise D, they had kids and families, and so the kids celebrated Captain Picard Day, and it's an episode, and it is fantastic.
See, I want to know, did they ever go into how disconnected those children were from like plant life and stuff? You're trapped on a spaceship.
No, because they would do like educational sessions in their classes, or they would do plant work, and don't ask me how I know this. Anyway, so Babylon 5 is another thing that I love, and that's actually something me and James share, which is nice.
Yeah. Even though it's probably been longer for me than you watching it.
Probably.
I think we did discuss that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I am a Doctor Who fan beyond belief. I love me some Doctor Who. I am a Marvel guy, but my Marvel interests ends at Endgame right now. And then I'm a reader, but I'm not as voracious as James. I can be when I'm actually doing it, but because my full-time job is a teacher, it makes it challenging. So I love reading sci-fi, fantasy, steampunk fiction, and I have a list of books that I need to be reading, and I'm getting there. What else am I here? I'm gonna look at my list. I think that's all for me. So now, over to James.
Okay.
For you.
Well, to pick up kind of at the end of his thing, is like Doctor Who. I have no idea. Like, my interest in Doctor Who was the 9th Doctor, who's the wartime doctor that the other doctors just kind of ignore.
Yep.
Because he did some bad stuff. Mm-hmm. But he had to do it. I think that was kind of the interesting thing that I learned about him. And I only fell into that because I like the actor, and he's done a bunch of other sci-fi stuff.
Yep.
So that's Doctor Who for me. That's all I know. So when we do those episodes, you're going to hear me going like, wow, what?
There's Doctor Who is a deep dive, and there is some controversy, obviously, with the current Doctor, and we'll get into that as well as we go.
Yeah, I think it was funny. Like I had a friend of mine, Brian. I know you're eventually going to listen to this, and I know you don't mind the name drop. Brian, who actually blew up about that at me.
Really?
But he didn't know I didn't know Doctor Who. He thought, just assumed because I'm a big nerd that I was like, oh, James would know Doctor Who. It's like, can you believe this? Blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I have no idea who you're talking about.
I don't get that reference, as Captain America would say.
Yeah, what are you talking about? It's like, I know who Doctor Who was, the character, because once you're a nerd, you kind of just know it. You catch up on it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't understand the controversy. I don't know what's going on.
Well, we will get into that eventually.
Yeah. And let's see. Let's books. Yep. I run the gamut here, folks. I'm big on sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. It's usually like where I kind of like puddle around the most, and then just regular fiction. But I've been known to read some philosophy and other really dry topics too. It's like, let's put it this: at my worst in my book addiction, I was juggling 4 books at once. Oof. And I could keep them all even. Yeah. Nowadays, no, I usually juggle maybe 1 or 2. Yeah. And just keep it small. And now I'm just kind of focusing on one at a time. But I can still do. I'd probably feel good if I got back into it really deeply. I could get up to 3. Yeah. But yeah, I read a ton of stuff. Nice. So it runs all over the place, from old sci-fi to new sci-fi to all the newest fantasy crazes. Like, I was reading George R.R. Martin before any of the stuff happened with Game of Thrones, folks.
We got to put that on our list, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, we need to get in that one at some point. And the train wreck that was that show.
Well, the last season was the train wreck issue.
No, I'll when we talk about it, I'll tell you where the train wreck starts around season 6.
Oh boy.
But like I said, folks, we'll get into that. But yeah.
We'll get there.
But yeah, I have a first edition copy of the very first books, folks. It's on my bookshelves, because I think I threw it away in a fit of anger when I had to move. Because I was just like, why is this still on my shelf? Goodbye.
And now that first edition is in the trash somewhere.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay.
Because I donated a bunch of books, but I think that one I actually just threw it, because I'm like, he's never going to finish this anyway.
And he hasn't.
Yeah. Folks, it's been like 5 years since he promised that his book would be finished.
He's not finishing it. It's just not happening.
Yeah, it's not happening. But then other fantasy authors that I really, really love, Brandon Sanderson, folks. He's amazing. Joe Abercrombie. He's amazing. Get out there, read those books. Nice. They're delightful. And then, of course, J.R. Tolkien. Yeah. Ooh, without him, there's a lot of fantasy stuff we would not have these days. Yeah. Let's see. Comics, I'm a Marvel guy, but I am aware of older DC stuff. So, and I used to read those a lot when I was a kid. But I'd say like my number one comic stuff that I did love was Image. Yeah. Because I used to have Spawn #1. Oh. And I don't know where it went.
It vanished.
When I moved, I went digging.
Oh, no.
And it's because I know I had it in a hard case. Because I'm like, this is magnificent. Yeah. I'm saving this. I know I read it a bunch, so it really wasn't going to be high graded.
If any of our true nerd or geek friends are listening right now, they are having a severe panic attack.
It hurts. Loss. It hurts. Oh, there's another one. Like, I used to have Punisher #1. And my brother let it get destroyed.
Have you disowned your brother? Because...
No. Regretfully, no.
Regretfully?
Yeah, no. Well, now me and my brother get along really good. He's another nerd, but it's kind of like it is an accident with a dog. Oh. So it was one of those things I can't really blame him. Right. But it was kind of like just demolished. And at the time, it was like I didn't really think it'd be anything. Now looking back, I'm kind of like, that comic book, no.
Yeah, it'd be worth some good money.
You never really think about it at the time. I'm also a computer geek. Used to be hardcore, but not so much anymore. But I do play computer games, so we'll talk about a few of those here and there. Nice. Probably not too deep, but we'll talk about some computer games. Okay. Magic the Gathering. I used to be a huge Magic the Gathering nerd. I'm still a little bit, but I don't have anybody to play with, so that kind of sits on the back burner. I'm a big Commander fan. Okay. Commander is the singleton format. Okay. Which we'll talk about that later, but just basically, it essentially means like one of each card. You're not going to do the standard where you have like 4 of each or 3 of each, whatever. Okay. So Commander's really very fun, but we'll talk about that in the Magic the Gathering episode, folks.
Nice, I like it.
I do Warhammer 40K. I'm big. Used to love those miniature games. I actually have a bunch, but they're just not assembled. I think it's the curse of every miniatures fan. Yeah. But also, it's like my life got interrupted big time with the move and everything, so you can forgive me that. Let's see, anime. We'll talk about anime. I'm a big anime nerd too. Dungeons and Dragons, the role-playing games. I run the gamut. my group on Sunday that I'm still connected with, my nerds, we experiment. We'll try random stuff. We'll sometimes get into long format games where, let's see, about 4 months ago we finished a campaign that we were playing in a game called Forbidden Lands that would run for about 2.5 years.
Oh.
So that was a long game.
Oy.
And I think, no. I was like, my character was one of the ones that was like original, didn't die. Started out and got all the way through. Wow. But there was 2 others that they joined later, but they were in there.
Fascinating.
So that's kind of like, that is very unique in a game, folks. Yeah. Especially when it's brutal. Like Dungeons & Dragons' new format kind of discovered it's a little softer on character death.
Yeah.
It's really easy to survive a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But Forbidden Lands is kind of one of those things, like one die roll and your character's head could go flying. Oof. So to survive a game that ran that long, and we'd be sitting there for about 4 to 4 hour sessions, 5 hour sessions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of a unique thing. We'll talk about that later in other stuff. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm a nerd that kind of covers
everything.
all of nerddom.
And then Star Wars.
Yeah.
You're a big Star Wars nerd.
I'm a big Star Wars nerd. I have a bunch of Star Wars stuff in my room. I have Boba Fett stuff all over the place because I love the Mandalorian junk. Yeah. Before the Mandalorian show came out. Yeah. You know, I think we're going to be dropping a lot of that. We were fans before you.
That's the thing. And then, so that's interesting. We'll take a rabbit trail off that for just a second and come back on. But the Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett and a lot of the stuff you see on Netflix and Disney Plus and stuff like the animated series and even live action, a lot of that was the precursor to that was the Star Wars book universe.
Oh yeah. And
when the new episode 7, 8, and 9 was announced, they basically said now there is that universe is on its own. It is no longer a part of the canon universe. It is no longer a part of. It is its own universe on its own. And that, I think, for a lot of fans was a heartbreaking moment because there is a large amount of books that is based off the Luke and Leia line, and the Han Solo line, and all those guys. Like it's pretty deep.
Yeah, that actually happened when Disney bought them out, by the way. Okay. And then they started labeling all the older stories in the Legacy series. So you can still buy those stories. They're kind of still out there, but they'll usually have like a band around them that says like Legacy, and that means it's not canon. Yeah, it's not true. And the Disney books, usually in the front of that Disney book, when you open it up, the stuff that is now canon. Yeah. You can find in the front where they'll list it out of the stuff that does count now. Or at least they were doing that the last time I cracked one of those books.
That makes me sad because I was an old school fan of the original of that massive.
Oh yeah, that universe, they took Star Wars and went a long
There was like
way,
a zombie series where like the stormtroopers would like go on these zombie ships, and it was incredible to read. I loved it.
I mean, you had invaders from another galaxy kind of thing came along. The folks that were outside of the Force, which is really weird. Yeah, that was probably one of those things that's like when we talk about it, I'll get into it further. Where I had issues with it because like the Fourth is like life. Yeah. So you can't really. Are they undead? What are they? Yeah. Like, but they're bio people. I'm like, well, they're basically living. So the Force I should be able to throw them out an airlock with the Force. But whatever.
It's an interesting.
Luke found a wife. Yeah. And all kinds of stuff, folks. Oh yeah. Han Solo and Leia had more than one kid. Yeah. Like there's all those stories out there, and
twins and all that.
A lot of them were really good. Yeah. I mean, there were some dumpster fires in there, but
as you do. Yeah. But there is truth in that there were, and that's I think what people were kind of upset about when the new movies were being kind of coming out in the storylines. People were like, well, what about Grand Admiral Thrawn? Like, what about all this stuff? And so
let me tell you, folks, Thrawn, like in this new series, is really, really cool. Yeah. But so they did him right. And in the new books, they did him right. But in the old series too, he was amazing. Yeah. He was so scary. Yeah.
You actually had a reason to fear Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yes.
The characters were afraid of him for a reason. Yeah. And I think part of why, like, episode 7 was okay. Well, again, very brief jump into this, and we'll jump back out. But I think the reason why episode 8, why people were so upset is...
Well, remember, we had this discussion in Zazzy. Yeah. You're okay with 7. Yes. I am not.
Yeah, you're not. And yet we somehow remain friends. But the point of it is, in the reaction to 7 was mostly okay. There were still people who were like, whatever. And then 8 was so bad. And then 9, they tried to fix it, and people were still upset because it wasn't done very well and how it was closed out. And so people would come back to the legacy books and be like, look, you had an incredible amount of stories written already, storylines that would have been incredible to see on film. And they're like, well, we want to tell our own story. It's like, well, you were pretty terrible at telling that story. Yes. Like, your justification for leaving all that behind.
Yes, folks, you can go out and you can look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Like, don't look at the movie numbers really, because a lot of people want to go see them no matter what.
Yeah.
But if you look at the numbers of their sales and stuff, it's visibly seen. You can tell when the fans are upset because everything tanked.
Tanks, yeah. So
Like they destroyed their fan base that was giving them billions of dollars a year when they didn't even release anything new.
Yeah. It's an interesting kind of dynamic, I think, when you look at all fandoms. So Star Wars, Star Trek, the whole nine yards, there are passionate fans. And I think for you and I both, we are both very passionate fans. We are both very, like, we love our fandoms. And in a lot of ways, sometimes that can get into territory that, you know, it can come off as like, well, you like people like, hey, you know, you're becoming too there's too much fandom, you found it, but dial it back.
Yeah, pull
and
it
I
back.
think that I acknowledge that passion for your fandom can definitely bubble over and boil over in ways that it can be dangerous and toxic and all those things. And I understand that and I respect it, but I also am like, I should be allowed to feel things about something that I
should
love.
be allowed to feel things, and I should be allowed to critique it.
Yeah.
Without you getting hyper emotional and attacking me about it.
Yeah.
Because as long as I don't do that to you, hey.
And I think that'll be our goal with this podcast as we go forward, is we don't want to like outright say, well, these episodes should be thrown away, they should be ignored, we should get rid of it all, should burn to the ground. We'll never go that direction. We might joke about it, but we'll never suggest that a series or whatever should go away. But we will say, hey, we have a passion for this thing, and we think it should be done differently, and we're going to express that, and that's okay as long as it doesn't cross into real kind of fanboy territory.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we're talking to you haters.
Listen up, Bella. Oh, there
goes the lights. We're in the dark now.
Hold on. I gotta turn that on.
Does this kill the computer too? No, we're still recording, folks. The automatic lights have now made it super dark in here. We have mood lighting for the podcast.
So, I think it's the lamp that we didn't have here.
Like, I've been here a few times before when the lights kick off, and it always comes as a surprise.
Yeah. Except that it happens every time.
I know, it's like it is on a timer. Yeah. We should be aware of this.
You would think.
But suddenly it catches us both.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, this is awkward.
And you should have more experience than I am, but it's like...
You would think, but apparently not. Not today, Satan. Okay, so now that we've properly inundated our audience and our podcast with
We've probably lost half our audience by now. Come on.
Come back,
Let's just be honest,
Come back to us.
Please, haters, come back. We're sorry we chased you away by trying to be polite and nice.
Get back in here.
Yeah.
Let's start. That seems to work. Demanding and shouting at people.
Yeah, exactly.
That works really well.
We're going to scream at you, you nerd haters. Get back in here.
Yeah. That's the way to win friends and influence people.
Yeah. Come to the dark side. We have cookies.
And other food as well, which always bothers me. The dark side doesn't just have cookies. They have like lasagna and like chicken fingers.
Well, if you look at the T-shirts that came out with that slogan, everything. The dark side's got everything. It's just there.
It's just there. What does the good side got going for?
I mean, whatever they need to lure you over, the dark side's got it.
They're going to make it.
Yeah, like it's like a weird capitalist society in the dark side where it's like, what's our supply and demand here? What do the people need? We need to get this here so that we can draw more people over here.
Okay. We'll put that on the list of the dark side versus the good side. Who has the better goodies and good food? We'll have to figure out who. Yeah.
I mean, we all saw that last movie. The good side's got that weird blue milk, folks.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on.
Yes, we need to do one of those because we're not getting out of this pit for a while if we keep going.
It's going to be a bad place.
Mm-hmm. Blue milk. You want the blue milk.
It is interesting. Like it all comes from George Lucas's decision in A New Hope to have blue milk. Like it set Star Wars apart, like the color of the milk or the chemicals. And of course, when you do something when you're young and you're just trying to make your first movie, you're going to make choices. Well, this is what we want to do to set us apart. Well, then that one thing that you do to set us apart, it follows you for an entire like film path. Like you have to do it, and then if you don't do it, people are like, "Oh, where's the blue milk?" And it's like, well, it's not all about the blue milk.
I mean, you also have to think as nerds and as fanboys. When you really get into something, those little details matter. Yeah. So, like, I've drunk the blue milk, folks. I've been to Disney World. It's okay.
You've been to the Promised Land.
I was not wowed by it, but it's all right. It was a cool beverage on a hot day. I can happily say I've had the milk.
Anchorman tells us that milk is a bad choice on a hot day.
Oh yeah, I know. But I mean, it's not obviously it's not milk, folks. But it's whatever.
I would be delighted to see the chemical makeup. Okay,
And
so
to the other.
anyway, onwards. Getting us out of this hole. All right, so basically we've hit 45 minutes, which is awesome.
Wow, I'm surprised we got this long.
Yeah. Again, thanks for the encouragement.
Well, look, we're on
I'm not sure whether to
and
be
we've
insulted or
lasted
complimented.
45 minutes. So I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
We crashed and burned really fast on that first takeoff.
Yeah.
And then
got
suddenly,
back
look,
up-
boom,
we
we
got
got
back
back
in
up
there.
and we just started running
We're
and
like-
running.
we're like
We're not
the-
paying attention.
We're like the Concorde. Hopefully we don't crash and then be banned from flight for life.
We're just that guy that just keeps running and running, doesn't realize how dehydrated he is
Yeah.
until he like collapses.
Well, we'll see. We have 15 minutes till we collapse.
Where's our lackey that's supposed to run in here with like water for us so we can keep going?
Where's
Here's your
our
Gatorade.
Where's our water boy?
Yeah.
Or water person? Okay, so now our goal is to set aside the next, 15 or so minutes to talk about. And again, this is the thing about this is that this is our first episode, so the format of the next episode may be a little different because we're going to figure out, oh, that didn't work, or hey, that did work.
Yeah, we're going to pick ourselves apart a little bit.
Yep,
so we don't need you guys to do it. We'll do it ourselves.
We'll do it ourselves. We're nerds and geeks. We do that really well.
When episode 5 comes around, we really haven't changed something that irritates you, please let us know.
Yeah, give us till episode 5 before we start sending the hate mail.
Yeah.
Episode 5, commence the hate mail. That'll be the episode.
Yeah, that's what we should title it. Because we should see if we have any hate mail at that point, and we're going to read it. You guys are going to get shamed on air by us.
That's not how we do things. That's not how nerds do.
Oh, come on.
The nerd and geek world is better than that, sir. Sir.
You want to rise above, but I want to hang around in the
do.
dirt.
I do. Well, you have fun in the sewers. Enjoy that.
Well, I mean,
process.
think about it. You're Star Trek, man. Everything's clean and processed and comes out of a machine.
Yeah.
And I'm Star Trek. We got garbage compactors.
Oh, okay. With worms in it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, that's good. You probably should take
Like,
some
I'm
of
really surprised. Where did that creature come from?
worm creature.
In garbage compactor. You better write that down.
I'm writing it down.
Because we're going to talk about that worm creature.
Great. Looking
And
forward to that
we're gonna have
conversation.
all kinds of weird theories about where that thing came from. Because think
Delightful.
about it.
Deep
It spread out over the garbage compactor. And it was
Yes.
surviving down there.
Yes.
It ate living things. So is that where they were dumping stormtroopers that had accidents?
Yes.
Like Darth Vader's choke victims? Or
Yeah, regularly we're feeding the monster because if you want to do it biology-wise, the monster had to be fed because he couldn't just eat trash all day long. He needed some biological food.
Because obviously he didn't eat the metal.
Nope.
So he's eating organics.
Yep. I don't know. These are answers that we will find for you, the audience, on the next episode at some point down the road. I'm really looking forward to that one. Can you tell by the tone of my voice?
Come on, I can see the grin on your face. They can't.
I just want to put my head through a table. Okay, so
That'll be another episode.
and Aaron's off the episode for a while. He's recovering
and now
from
you're
a head injury.
stuck with me, folks. We're gonna go in some weird corners.
I'm gonna have that edit button ready. Okay, so part of
You guys listen to Pink Floyd before? We are now.
Oh no! Actually, so this brings up an interesting point. I don't think we're going to get to what we were going to talk about, but so have you ever heard of the show WKRP in Cincinnati?
Yes, I have.
So
Dude, that Thanksgiving episode.
So yeah, there is so it is actually approaching Thanksgiving. We won't have a new episode until next week, so you won't have a Thanksgiving episode from us. Or actually, you might. We'll see. But there is
yeah, it's going to be difficult around Thanksgiving. You know, holiday, you're going to have to be gentle with us, folks, because we do want to spend time with our families.
We do want to do that. So part of the WKRP thing is that there's a Thanksgiving episode in which the station manager decides to have a creative way to celebrate Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And so he charters a helicopter and he gets some stuff and he tells his guys back at the station, he gets a guy to report on scene. And so it starts out like, and we as listeners or watchers of the show don't know what's going on.
Remember, it's all delivered, like it is a show that we're watching, but they're in a radio station. So that's what you see.
Yeah, you don't actually see what's going on, you just hear. And so the reporter on the scene is like, oh, the chopper is above and it's got a little sign that says WKRP Happy Thanksgiving or something, whatever. And he says, and there's objects that are falling out of the helicopter. There's no chutes yet. I don't know what it could be. And then all of a sudden, oh, they're turkeys. They're hitting the ground like wet cement. And oh, the humanity. And it just becomes this whole entire scene. And the reporter, his name is Les, and he's a really like uptight reporter. So he starts to lose his mind, and he gets in trouble. And all of a sudden, he gets cut off from the reporting at the radio station. To the radio station. It's like, well, we lost Les. Les, are you there? Well, we'll wait to hear back from him. And then the scene shifts to later, where Les, I think, comes back and he's just like, ah! And then the station's manager comes in from the helicopter and he's got flat feathers all over his face. And the winning line is, I swear to God, I thought turkeys could fly.
Oh yeah. Like you can find this clip.
It is fantastic
on YouTube.
Yep,
folks,
WKRP Thanksgiving.
Go watch it because it is hilarious.
It's hilarious. There's another, so that is a part of why, like, that was, that's a Thanksgiving tradition. Another tradition, not tradition.
If we get famous, folks, we're doing that.
Yeah. If we can do it. There's also a show called Taxi, and it has a very young Christopher Lloyd. And if you want to find hilarious
Which
stuff,
looked old even when he was young.
Oh yeah, he looked like an old man.
Just
then.
be aware if you do Google Taxi and you watch that, he is extremely young there. He just looks like he's in his 60s already.
And there's a scene in an episode where it's his driver's test, and it is some of the funniest television I have ever seen in my life. So yeah, Taxi, the television show, it's got Danny DeVito.
Oh yeah, it's got some stars
fantastic.
in there that are amazing. Like the cast is crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's really talented. So
these are older shows, folks.
Yeah,
but they're still worthwhile, especially you young crowd. They're still worthwhile to go watch some of those because the comedy is still solid gold.
Absolutely.
I mean, it might be a little rough.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some topics and things they do have it. They do talk about, they do broach into, or some of their wording might be a little odd, but there's still some comedy gold nuggets there.
Well, and there's also really strong storylines and really strong characters.
Oh, yeah.
Andy Kaufman played the mechanic, Latka, and it's probably really problematic in this day and age because he wasn't actually speaking a language of his, he was making it up, and it was so, I mean, but I also think we're giving you the caution. Yep.
Which when we talk about stuff like this, we will give you that warning.
Yeah.
Like there's some of those things. If you go watch this, it can be kind of rough by today's standards.
You might raise your flags a little bit.
Yeah.
I also want to be very mindful because comedy, in whatever it's presented, is a powerful thing.
Oh yes.
And I always want to make sure that I never want to say like, you know, certain things aren't funny. I mean, certain things aren't. I mean, there are things that I don't find hilarious.
Yeah.
But I also know that my sense of humor isn't as dark as others, and I don't find humor in things other people do. And so that's kind of also my caveat is.
See, because I love dark humor.
Right.
So me and you, like, we have different senses of humor about certain things.
Yeah.
But we still have things we match up on.
Yeah, it still works out in the end.
I mean, that turkey drop is kind of dark when you think about it.
But
look at you
hilarious.
laughing.
Oh, I've
Those
watched
poor
it.
birds.
I've watched it at least like 3 times this week. I'm just like, oh, it's so good.
Yes.
It's fantastic. It's good humor. Well, and I found like episodes like and scenes from that show on YouTube that I kind of have been the algorithm has recommended to me. And there's some just brilliant television, both with acting and writing on that show.
See, but thinking deeper, folks, going into the dark James zone. Think of the algorithm.
Yeah.
It's got him figured out.
It does.
They're watching you now.
They are. Well, they're not watching me. The algorithm AI is watching me, I guess, or watching what I watch. All right. Well, I don't think Did
we hit an hour?
We're closing in on it.
Yes.
So, dear listener, what we intended to do was we were going to do like an issue or tackle something as a preview of what it would look like. But I'm pretty sure you have a preview of what it's going to look like. Given the last
look how this episode went.
50 minutes.
Yeah.
You kind of know where we're going. So we'll go ahead and preview for you what's coming. Episode 2, I think we're still planning on recording that on the 22nd, which is that Friday?
The 22nd, that was our brainstorm date.
Oh, right. That's Monday.
Yeah, that's office hours.
Our record date is the 26th, which is still that Friday.
That's
correct?
the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yep.
But we'll see if we get there because, like I said, there's Thanksgiving stuff, folks. We kind of want to spend time with our families. If we do that or not, we might push it a week.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out as we go.
So that whenever that episode records, we will have our Ghostbusters
we're going to jump into
review.
Ghostbusters first.
But we're also going to the Afterlife review will be just a part of that segment. That's that episode 2 will feature heavily on the conversation around Ghostbusters 1 and just all of that.
Which, I would recommend all you guys that haven't seen that or haven't watched it in a while, go back and watch
Ghostbusters
it.
1.
It is a solid movie front to back.
Yep. It is universally praised as one of the solid films in the world. So episode 2 will be that. Episode 3 will be Ghostbusters 2.
Which, we're going into some weird areas there.
The redheaded stepchild of the Ghostbusters film series.
Yep.
Wait,
we haven't seen Afterlife yet, though.
Well, I think from what I've seen, based on the reviews that I've heard and the information I've read, Afterlife seems to be much better than Ghostbusters 2 and just a little bit under Ghostbusters original.
Oh, wow.
So there's hope. Fingers are crossed.
Well, I mean, I did see a few of those interviews of the cast, and Bill Murray didn't tank it at all, so I'm assuming that's okay, because usually if he doesn't like something, he's going to speak about it.
Yeah, he's not going to speak, and you're like, oh, why isn't Bill Murray talking?
Like that Garfield movie, folks. which we're never going to cover that.
I
But
sense a disturbance in the force upon that mention.
oh yeah, we're not going there.
Episode 4, we're going to talk about comics and our love of comics, and so
Yes.
that'll give us a chance to take a break from the Ghostbusters fandom that we will have talked about for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we haven't gotten through to episode 5 yet. Episode 5, actually, we're thinking we're going to call it the hate send us hate letters or send us hate mail episode.
Yeah.
So if you're planning on writing hate mail, please feel free to start that process now.
Just I encourage you to make it creative.
Yeah.
Because we're both going to critique you.
Yeah,
He is a teacher. I was a teacher. We're going to pull you apart.
I'm going to workshop your hate mail.
Yeah. Watch that grammar
Punctuation, grammar is important.
and
Make sure.
spelling, folks.
Spelling.
Come on.
Yeah, always, and there, and there. Gotta
We
make sure
can
you do that right.
can be pretty forgiving of grammar because some of those rules are weird. But spelling,
Yeah.
we should all, with the help of technology,
Yeah.
your spelling should be on point.
between spell check and Grammarly and everything else.
And we want you to be spelled out. If you use just you,
Yeah, no.
we'll make fun of you.
And we're only half being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Legitimately, we probably won't do that on the air because we love everybody and we don't.
Well, as a
want-
commentary here, I just want to know, how do you feel about using just the letter U as you in
if you're
text?
texting, great, but if you're writing actual things, no.
Hmm.
So here's, we'll get into that. We'll put that on
See,
a
and
list.
maybe I'm
of-
just picky because I'm more of a reader.
That's possibly impossible. Textual and written communication. We'll put that on the list because that's definitely something that I could speak for.
That's
going to
be some highbrow frou-frou episodes. folks.
Get out your dictionaries and sources, people.
Yeah.
We're going in. It'll be good times for the whole family.
Bust out that ELA book that you haven't touched since college.
Yeah, pull it out.
Oh, God.
Google search it.
I don't think even I have that bullet book anymore.
I don't.
I know I used to because when I moved, I remember throwing it away. And I wondered why I held it.
You threw a lot away when you moved.
I had to. It's
Okay.
kind of difficult. Like, you don't understand, like, folks, my bookshelves, when I stopped counting, because at one point I was counting all the books I owned, I stopped at 400.
Oh boy.
And now I had so many stacks and piles of books in my bedroom in Texas, and now I'm only on about a shelf and a half. So I'm under 100.
Okay.
So there's a lot of stuff I donated and gave away. That's how deep my love of books goes. Bibliophile-esque
There you
manner
go.
goes.
When I was at the middle school before I moved here and gave much of my middle school books donated to the library of the teacher who was coming in, I had upwards of 700 books on my shelf.
Yeah, see?
So I don't think I have 700 now. My shelves in this room are not as extensive as that, but
See, but the thing is, it doesn't total all the books I've read, but that's
Right.
what I just owned.
yeah.
And I kept buying and buying and buying.
Yep.
Now I'm thinking about getting an e-reader, or it scares me.
don't do it. Don't go to the dark side. They have cookies, but they don't have the nice taste. Wow. Taste of books. Well,
So what do they taste like, Aaron?
hopes and dreams, sir. They
See,
taste like hopes and dreams.
It's funny that I'm the book guy and I didn't bring that up, but he did.
And
So
on
did you
that-
get dared at something in college that we should discuss, Aaron?
I don't want to talk about it. And on that note,
Just like my oatmeal problem.
yep.
All right.
We'll save that for future therapy sessions, aka the podcast. Okay, well, this has been a blast and a half and 2 other things. I don't know. We haven't come up with a closing.
Yeah, we don't really have one.
thing.
Just love each other. Be
Yeah.
kind to each other out there.
Yeah,
The world's tough.
Yep, it is. And you know what? Find the good things in the world. Celebrate the good things. Hold on to those because, sometimes the world sucks, but there are good things in the world. Find your gratitude. Find the things to enjoy. Find your nerd and geekdom. Find
Yep.
the things that you can nerd out and geek out about.
And I'd say it's important to notice that it can also be things like sports and stuff,
Yeah.
folks. That's okay.
Be a nerd about, if you're listening and you've been like, oh, I don't know, well, you can be a nerd. I mean, like fantasy football season, there's a big old nerd world that happens there. Like that is
Just
calculations,
stats
math,
itself and football and baseball. Oh,
yeah,
man.
that breaks my English brain because I'm not a math brain. So it's always interesting to go. And so when I talk to people about that, I say, you know what, there are nerds out there who still do things that are cool and athletic, and so celebrate your nerddom. Let's try that again, and embrace your geekhood and stay safe, stay healthy, and know that between myself and James, you are absolutely and fully loved in all that you are.
Everybody take care out there.
And until next time, we'll see you after Ghostbusters Afterlife review next time. You've been been listening to the Nerds by Screenlight podcast, presented by Create at Morgan Productions, located in Fort Morgan, Colorado, USA. For more information on our production house, other podcasts hosted here, and further details, please visit www.createatmorgan.org. You can find us on Twitter at the handle CreateAtMorgan. Create at Morgan is a school club at Lincoln High School, our alternative education campus in Morgan County. Our sponsor is Aaron DeLay, the language arts teacher at Lincoln. Send any feedback to adelayedteacher@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to our podcast.